Hello and welcome into the Starters 5 Questions podcast. I'm Dave Trentadue. That over there is Simon Tsalikis. And of course, that is George Caperis. How's it going, boys?
I'm doing good. Episode 3.
Episode 3. Yes, definitely. We're on quite a roll. So don't forget to follow us on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. Subscribe to us on YouTube, all under the at the Starters 690 banner. You can follow us all there. You could don't forget to comment below with your answers to our questions, or if you want to drop us any comments, get involved in the discussion. It's always more fun when you do so. All right. This podcast, of course, sponsored by Club CDL, the premier sports facility in all of Montreal. It's got tennis, it's got squash, it's got pickleball, 2-story gym, and now it is offering Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu under the Renzo Gracie banner. They're offering a free trial for the month of February, 100% free classes. You could drop in. All you got to do is send them an email or sign up on clubcdl.com, and you could get some free Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu classes from some of the best teachers in Montreal.
Gracie, I think Simon knows about that, the Kumite back in the day. It's some serious stuff.
Talk about it. Can't talk about it, George.
Oh, all right.
Okay.
All right.
Like
Fair enough.
I like it. All right. So visit clubcdl.com. You guys ready to go?
Let's do it.
Let's start it up. Question number 1. The Super Bowl is set after an exciting weekend. Nobody's really happy about the AFC representatives. We'll just breeze by that game. But I do want to look back at the NFC Championship game that saw the Lions come pretty close to knocking off the 49ers. Detroit head coach Dan Campbell fueled the sports talk shows this week on the radio, on TV, pretty much everywhere, by going for it twice on fourth down, which I personally I like it. But he has doubled down, saying he stands by those decisions. He also fell under some scrutiny for his decision to run at a key point in the game, which in turn caused him to burn a timeout. Anyways, my question to you guys, is Dan Campbell nuts?
I don't think he's nuts, though, Dave. But look, I get the part. Like you see the analytics come out and the numbers come out the day after, and his field goal kicker isn't elite over that, but he does have an NFL leg. So the distance 48, 45, 44. This kid's in high school that bang out 60-yard kicks. So he's got the leg, and he suffers with the accuracy. Okay, so then I can be critical of why is this guy on the roster then if he can't make that kick. But look, there's something sacred about going up in a football game by 17 points. That is 2 touchdowns, 2 2-point conversions, and you're still in the lead if your opponent does all those things. Now, just because I played a little bit of CJF football and coached at the midget level and always was on the defensive side, when you start gambling on fourth down and you keep failing, or you're not putting up points, you're just putting more added pressure on your defense. Your defense can go out there and give up a touchdown and say, okay, we're still up by 17. Your defense can go out there and give up a field goal. Okay, we're still up by 7. I just don't know how it resonates with your defense. Like you're the inferior unit. The San Francisco 49ers are a better football team than you. The Niners offense is better than your defense. At some point, how much are you asking these guys to hold? So you can go back and forth with the field goals. At some point, I would have taken the opportunity to go up by 17 points because I think it's a big number. But on the goal line, on third down, after you haven't used the timeout and you've gone, 73 yards, and you run Montgomery and you burn a timeout. To me, that's almost a fireable offense. What you've told, now maybe the 3 of us, we should spend more time with our wives and our children and watching less football. So maybe we're too deep into our football. But anybody who's coached or played or is a football junkie knew at that moment, when he burned the timeout, he told his team the only way we're winning is by recovering an onside kick. The math, the clock had told you that you needed your 3 timeouts to get the football back. And if you fast forward, if you go for on fourth down, which he threw for and got the touchdown, which could have kicked the field goal as well, you would have got the ball back at the end of the game if you had your 3 timeouts. You would have got the ball back with 40, 45 seconds. You would have had to go the field, but we've seen, when Stephon Diggs was with the Minnesota Vikings, we saw when the Chiefs needed 8 seconds out of the 13 seconds that they had to get into field goal range. Crazy stuff can happen. But when he went for it on third down and burned that timeout, he told the entire Detroit Lions franchise, our only hope of winning is recovering an onside kick in the modern NFL where the recovery rate is like 10% or something. So the fourth downs, I didn't like it. The going for it and burning a timeout, you're not going to fire him because he is a good coach. He brought that program back from the dead. He brought that city back from the dead. But if I'm an owner, Dan, I love what you've done with this club. I love everything you've done. But this was scandalous. You're out of control here, man. Like, just throw the ball on third down, kick our field goal, whatever you want to do, and then we have our 3 timeouts. Because we went 73 yards without burning one. So, sorry I took forever there, but that third down call was atrocious.
Listen, Brandon Staley's gone, right? And he had the title of the most insane calls as a coach I've seen in the last 30 years of watching football, like completely out of control. And somehow Dan Campbell in this game, he almost mirrored Brandon Staley's decisions. And Simon's right. It's inexcusable. To run the ball and burn that timeout is inexcusable. It's just bad tactical football. And maybe call me old-fashioned, but I'm the guy that if I'm coaching a team, I don't want at the end of the game people to say, well, you kind of lost the game because of your decisions. I prefer let the players win or lose the game. And as a coach, your number one job, the number one thing you have to do as a coach is put your players in a position to win. And Dan Campbell didn't do that. I get the gut. I like that. I like that about Dan Campbell. I like I'll even defend him for going for it on fourth down, which I still don't think he should have, but I'll defend it in the sake of saying it's his mantra. It's who he is. But that play running on that down is completely insane. It's everything that's wrong with making bad decisions as a football coach. And Simon said it, inexcusable, fireable offense. Literally, I think it undoes everything he did the entire season, as crazy as it sounds, because I just think you took the game away from your players. You had maybe a 20% chance, 15% chance, 10% chance of winning that game if you had that timeout, and you turned it to 0. And that doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't make sense any way you cut it. So is Dan Campbell nuts? He's a little nuts. Yeah, I'm going to say he's a little nuts, guys.
Verdict is in. All right. I like those answers. We'll stick with football for the second question, but it is brought to you by a new partner over here at the Starters. Old friends of ours, our old friends at Cunningham's Pub. Now, gentlemen, there are chicken wing spots all over town. They come, they go. None really have stood the test of time as well as Cunningham's Pub, located in beautiful St. Anne de Bellevue. I don't know if, you guys have probably been, but they have literally the best chicken wings.
I agree. I'll agree with this. And I think Simon will agree, and it's rare we'll agree, but we're agreeing on this one, I think.
I used to love going there with my Vanier gear. Used to drive the Abbott's crazy.
Yes. Yeah, I could imagine. They were even shouted out by an Oscar-winning actress in Halle Berry, right?
Oh, look at that!
There's a video of her just ranting about how and raving about how great their wings are. So,
and they really are. They really are.
Yeah, they're really. It's a good spot, and it's right near the water in St. Anne's. It's a beautiful location too. So obviously check them out, Cunningham Pub on Instagram. And we'll probably be doing a contest with them very soon. So stay tuned if you guys want to win a bit of Cunningham's money. All right. So as usual, annually, every year we talk about the coaching carousel in the NFL. And I just, very simple question, name one winner, one loser in this year's coaching carousel.
Well, I think the San Diego Chargers got it right. I like that hire. They get a guy that has NFL experience, just coming off a national championship, probably the hottest name in coaching in Jim Harbaugh. And I just like the fit. I like the fit with what they have already offensively. I think Jim Harbaugh knows what it takes to win in the NFL. Yeah, he's made it to a Super Bowl with a less talented quarterback than the one he inherits. I just really like everything about that hiring. And I know sometimes we'll say, there's the name brand recognition, and there is that with Jim Harbaugh. There's no doubt about it. But Jim Harbaugh has won pretty much everywhere he's gone, whether it's Stanford, whether it's San Francisco, whether it's in Michigan. he's won. So the track record is there. I expect they'll be probably the most improved team. So I'm gonna say that's the big winner, the San Diego Chargers and Jim Harbaugh. The loser, I don't really care that they didn't hire Bill Belichick, because Bill Belichick is getting up there, and he hasn't been able to win without Tom Brady. But I don't get the hire of Raheem Morris. I'm perplexed by it a little bit. He doesn't have a proven track record as a winning coach. There's been a couple of failed stops along the way. I don't know what he brings in terms of tactical genius. He's been a above average defensive coordinator in the NFL. So I'm not really liking that hire. I feel it's like a recycling of a coach again, and I kind of hate that. I like when, they kind of, I like the Dan Campbell type hirings where you think a little bit outside the box and you try to get a guy that maybe will bring something we haven't seen to the NFL. I'm not loving that hire, and I get the.
We lost George.
George is gone.
There he is.
He's back.
Sorry, guys. Yeah. Little technical difficulty. Sorry about that.
No worries. You continue your thought if you want.
Yeah. So I'm not loving the Raheem Morris. I just think the Raheem Morris hire is going to be a failed hire, and I don't see it getting any better in Atlanta, unfortunately.
All right, Simon.
I like. I'm going to go with Georgia with the Chargers and their hiring of Jim Harbaugh. I think you needed a lot of the stuff that Jim Harbaugh does and rubs people the wrong way. I think you needed that with the Chargers. It's not even that you're the second most popular football team in that city. You're way down the chart. We tune into Chargers games, and if it's the Chargers and the Packers, the Chargers and the Steelers, the Chargers and the Raiders, whoever, they're completely outnumbered in the crowd. So I think you needed to create, even if there was, let's say, whoever was the most brilliant X's and O's guy, who was absolutely perfect, but brought no brand recognition, brought no interest to the club, I don't think that would have been the best hiring. They needed somebody on that sideline that would resonate, get in front of a television, sit in a press conference, and make it on the news. You're competing for a lot there. You got Shohei Ohtani now in Los Angeles. The Dodgers run that city with an iron fist. The Lakers, the Clippers are building a new facility. You just can't get washed away. So not only from a football perspective, and I'm not even the biggest Jim Harbaugh guy, but like George said, the Stanford program when he was there was pretty much elite. We remember how close he got in the Super Bowl when he lost to his brother with the San Francisco 49ers. And not only that, it was a really fun team to watch play football. And the same thing for Michigan. It took him a while to get it going there, but once he did, the Michigan program, being in the Final Four the last couple of years and finally punching through this year was a pretty special program. And the losers, I think it's the Buffalo Bills for doing absolutely nothing and running back Sean McDermott. I simply don't get it. He is a defensive coordinator. He's supposed to be great on that side of the ball. They haven't been great on that side of the ball. I think it's 3 playoff games against the Chiefs. Their arch nemesis. They've never sacked Patrick Mahomes once. They weren't dangerous in that football game. There was never a moment in that football game that you thought that they get a stop. You go back to the debacle that was a couple of years ago where they decided to kick off to the Chiefs rather than just dribble a ball down the middle and maybe eat up some clock, or even if you can't, or you do kick it through the back of the end zone, 13 seconds left in a game, you have to figure out a way for these guys not to kick a tying field goal. You go back to last year, a pitiful performance against a backup or third-string quarterback in Miami who I do not even remember who that guy was, but the Bills got through that game kicking and screaming, only to have Joe Burrow show up, and Joe Burrow beat them in Buffalo. Mike McCarthy gets incredible amount of scrutiny. Mike McCarthy's won 12 football games in a row. Mike McCarthy's an offensive guy. And Dak Prescott will finish top 5 in MVP voting. So that guy can say, listen, my team didn't show up against the Packers. I get that. But I'm an offensive guru. My quarterback put up MVP numbers. What does McDermott say about his defense? What does he say about his defense? They got rolled up, couldn't make a stop when it mattered the most. So I don't know how you keep running back that crew. Something has to change. You're not going to turn over the roster. You're sure as hell not going to go find a new quarterback. I thought there was time for a change in Buffalo. I don't think Sean McDermott's a terrible coach. I just don't think he's that good of a coach, or the time has passed and The message just doesn't connect with that locker room anymore. And now was it Billy Babich, I believe his name is, that they promoted to defensive coordinator. And everybody's like, oh, great, in-house hiring. It's good. But is McDermott going to let him call the defense, or is he just going to let him run the defense between Monday and Saturday? We'll see. So I don't know how the Bills are just going to roll up with the same coaching staff as they've done the last couple of years.
All right. Well said. We're going to switch gears here we'll talk some Habs a little bit here. Question number 3, boys, brought to you by EA Fitness. They're having a massive promotion as Kickstart 2024. It pretty much ends soon because I think they're stretching it a little bit into the February, but their private memberships are 50% off. You can get yours for just $45 a month. So check them out, eafitness.inc on Instagram. All right, so the Montreal Canadiens on their All-Star break, and there's no better time to take stock of the team than right now, guys. So easy question for you. I want to know, who is the Habs' most overrated player this season and also their most underrated player this season?
Their most underrated player this season is Caden Gooley. He plays big minutes. He plays against Matthews and Pasternak and the Kachuk matchup. Lost in all the noise that's with the club, starting with the Doc injury, the 3 goalies, the Cole Caulfield can't find a goal at the beginning of the season. Josh Anderson went the quarter of a season without scoring. There's always something of a distraction. And then, sometimes it's the younger players like Struble or Jacky coming back up that steal a lot of the headlines. Caden Gooley has been a quality, I think, high-level defenseman this year, and the front office and the coaching staff, the one thing they can go into this season, exhale, check off the box that Caden Gooley's an NHLer and he's going to be that for a while. I just love his game. Not a lot of noise. It's going to be 25, 26 heavy minutes going forward. I'm not sure what will come from the offensive side of the ice, but the fact that you have a guy that you can throw out there for 25, 26 minutes, I love what Caden Gooley's brought this year.
All right, George.
You didn't give your most overrated player.
You want to go? Okay.
Yeah, we could go.
Or we can go back and forth. So if you want to go, I'll tell you who I think is probably underrated this year, and it's Caden Gooley. I mean, I have to agree with Simon. I would have loved to have written something else on my paper here, Simon, but you stole a little bit of the punch. Caden Gooley, I mean, he's playing big minutes. He's playing against the best guys, like Simon said. And his development is following what the Canadians expected. And I just think he's a guy that kind of goes under the radar with such a young defense. He's also partnered up sometimes with the younger guys. He's not always playing with Matheson. I have to agree with Simon. So I'll keep my answer short and say Caden Gooley as well.
All right. And overrated?
See, overrated, I was looking at something like, trying to Brendan Gallagher's numbers were okay. The goal total was good for a while. But again, there's a level of expectation with Brendan Gallagher. I think he's a bottom 6 guy now, and that's where he slots in. Can the point total be better? Yeah, but I think you can do that for a lot of the guys on this squad. Armia as well. What is he at? 8 goals and 1 assist. So you can throw him in the mix as well. But I'm going to just say a little bit overrated right now, and I'm just going to go on the pulse of social media and their frenzy when Arbor Jacky is in the lineup. Good player. I don't think he'll be more than a 5 and 6. I don't think he'll be more than a bottom pairing guy. I think he can be an NHLer for a while. He's in for a struggle when it comes to this offseason and making this squad next year. When you look at Matheson, Gooley, and the Harris, Barron, Struble, Mayu, Hudson, probably some type of free agent, maybe an older guy. Savard maybe sticks around. I don't know. So he's in a dogfight for a spot. But just I find that even when I'm on the air and people are discussing, like there's issues on the back end. The time in Laval was well served, and maybe a little bit more in Laval, or maybe a little bit more time here taking, 11, 12 minutes a game. I don't think he's what people believe him to be penciled into a NHL lineup on the regular. He's not there yet. I'm not going to say he's a liability back there, but he needs to improve his game back there. And I don't want his only attribute to be that he can go and beat people up. The Canadians need more than that. The Canadians aren't deep enough with their forwards. They're not good enough in nets to have a guy that's just going to be able to beat people up and not be good enough is in his own end of the rink. I know when he got called down, I was working that day, and people lost their collective minds. But the reality is he wasn't NHL caliber at that point. He still needs to work on his game. There's a reason why, he wasn't a shoo-in into the National Hockey League right after his draft. Like, he got into the lineup last year because they were decimated by injuries. He needs a little bit more time in Laval, and then we shall see. This guy doesn't have his spot penciled in. I didn't even mention Reinbacher. This guy's not penciled into a top 6 next year. Maybe he comes and blows away people at camp. Sure, I'm all for that. But the way some people talk about, like, this guy needs to be penciled in or it's a terrible thing, I question that judgment.
I had written Arbor, so I'm going to kind of change my answer a little bit here because, look, I think you can pick any of the Canadians' kind of young defensemen other than Caden Gooley. Jaden Struble has shown signs of being a good NHL defenseman, not a spectacular one. However, the consistency is not there. Justin Barron, the consistency is not there. Arbor, the consistency is not there. So I think you take your pick out of any of them, but the guy that I'm going to say is probably the most overrated is Justin Barron because the expectations were very high on Justin Barron. What we traded to get Justin Barron alone, and the fact that Justin Barron was penciled in to be a top 4 defenseman for this club, and he's been sent down to Laval, tells you everything you need to know there. I just think the expectations are super high. He hasn't lived up to them, and he's seen as very high potential. And when it's going good, people talk about him as being that top 4 defenseman, but I feel it's a lot of smoke and mirrors, and he is overrated, and he may have a difficult time of cracking that lineup for the reasons that Simon said, because I think if we project Reinbacher and Lane Hudson, you suddenly get a very, very, very difficult top 4 to crack. And then does Justin Barron have that sandpaper that Struble has, that Jordan Harris has, to play in the bottom 3 pair? Does he have a part of his game that's Arbor? I don't think so. So I don't know how he fits in. I don't know how he does it. So it looks to me like he's the one that's a little overrated, and he's out of luck.
Interesting answers. Yeah, I like it. I mean, you would have found no bigger fan of Arbor Jackeye than I at the, before he got here. I was pumping him to make the team. He was exactly the type of player that I love, but even I could realize that, he's not a lock to be an NHL. He'll probably end up being an NHL defenseman somewhere, but I mean, I don't know if there's a spot for him here long term, unless.
But we've seen this. We've seen this in Montreal, guys. I mean, whether it's Guillaume Latendresse or Ryan O'Byrne, or there's we kind of fall in love real fast, quickly, and then fall out of love just as quick. I can remember a time when Yuri Sechak, people were screaming in the streets, how could they have traded this guy? He ended up playing 26 more games in the NHL. I'm just saying. This is the market we're in, and it's kind of, we love you and then we don't love you anymore, and it happens real quick. So Arbor better get the game together.
Yuri Seykat reference is always great here.
Thank you.
I appreciate that. All right, question number 4, gentlemen, brought to you by Fresh MTL. They are located in Gold's Gym in Laval. Their food is great. It's healthy. I just saw on one of their Instagram posts you could upgrade your classic protein shakes with glutamine, creatine, or even an extra shot of protein. So, I mean, take them all, and maybe all at once. I don't know if that's healthy or not. I have no idea. It sounds good to me. So, I mean, follow them at Fresh MTL. They have a pretty cool page, some good cookies going on. I mean, they have all sorts of things you could bring home, meals home, meal prep, and everything. Right, Simon?
Yep, absolutely. And also, you can get them on Uber as well for your lunches if you're in and around the area, or if you want to order all your meals and you need all those meals 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, whatever it is delivered, you can do that as well.
All right, so question number 4, we're going to stick with the Habs. Trade deadline fast approaching. first week of March. So I want to know what is most important thing for the Habs to accomplish at this trade deadline at this juncture in Kent Hughes' era.
Well, I think this is a pretty easy question to answer. It's to make sure that they weaponize that salary cap of whatever they have and acquire some assets. It's to get rid of guys that are not part of the plan long term, and it's starting to look like one of these young defensemen is going to be part of that because the Calgary Flames just traded Elias Lindholm to the Vancouver Canucks for three young players and a conditional pick. So, I mean, for me, it's the Montreal Canadiens have no choice here. They're going to have to make a deal to get rid of Monahan because, let's face it, we're going nowhere this year. So the deal has to be made. And then you got to weaponize that salary cap. And finally, I don't think you have a choice. You have to get rid of one of these young defensemen because their value is pretty high now. And I don't know how high it's going to be next year. Right? If you look at Arbor's stock, is it up or is it down? I think it's definitely down. Is their team still interested? Sure. But will teams be interested next year if he doesn't make the team and he's 3-4 in Laval? I don't know. So I think those are the priorities, and it starts with getting the players that don't fit in the plan out, weaponizing the salary cap, and figuring out what's going on in the back end, which is kind of funny because going into the season, the only thing we talked about is the logjam for the forwards. We had too many forwards. That's all we kept saying. We got too many forwards. Where are we going to play all these guys? Well, the forwards isn't a problem right now. It's the back end where we're starting to worry. Where are we going to find place for all these guys to play? So there it is.
What is the most important thing for the Habs to accomplish this trade deadline? The perfect world, Dave, would be moving out veteran salaries. I don't know if that's going to happen. Now, Armia may be enticing for another squad. He's not making an obscene amount of money. Maybe the Canadiens could swallow some of that salary, but highly likely he goes next year's deadline. Brendan Gallagher as well, but I don't think they're going to move Brendan Gallagher. I'm not sure there's many buyers for Brendan Gallagher with that contract where it is right now. So that would be my goal. That's what I'd want to accomplish if I was that front office. I want some contracts off the books. Ulonen, Heineman, Roy, depending on what happens in Laval, I want to see more of these guys. Can these guys be your if they're not going to be your bottom three, that's fine. But if you're going to replace, I think Heineman, Ulonen, and Roy, who I think goals come easier to them clearly than it does to Jake Evans and to Michael Pezzetta and some of the guys that, and Stevens, the guys that you've been running out lately, then get these guys looks. So I don't know what's going to be accomplished between now and the deadline, but in my perfect world, veteran bodies move out, guys get 20 games, 25 games to showcase themselves at the pro level, and then you can assess what these guys are going into next year. Are they third liners? Are they fourth liners? Because I think the goal for October 2024, that in your bottom six, you're a lot younger, you're a lot cheaper, and you're a lot more athletic. That should be your goal. Armia, Gallagher, Pezzetta, Evans, go younger, go cheaper, and if you can, go more athletic. Guys that can just skate a little bit better, finish a little bit more, or have at least the ability to do that. So between now and the deadline, I'd like to see this team shed salaries and contracts. Not sure it's going to happen though.
Fair enough. I was about to ask you, is it a failure if they don't accomplish that task, or?
No, I don't think it's a failure because I just don't think you move Gallagher. I don't think you can move Gallagher, and I don't think you can move Armia to next year. Now, again, I don't have the, their cap numbers in front of me here, but Armia, I don't know if you want to suck up maybe 25% of that, maybe 30% of that. You can, but for me, I'd just bring him back, run him out there for 40, 50 games next year and try to deal him at next year's deadline. And if he plays well, he gets on that 20-goal pace like he's on this year, that might be able to get you another first when it's all said and done. If not, maybe a couple of seconds. I don't know, a prospect. But it's not even about what I want to bring in. It's what I want to move out. I want cap flexibility, and not just dollars and cents, contract wise as well. Team could only hand out X amount of contracts.
I think I would have agreed with you if I didn't see what the Calgary Flames got for Lindholm. And so now I'm going to say the priority is Sean Monahan and optimizing the return on that. Because if you can get a first and a guy who has, Lindholm has 9 goals and the guy they got, Kuzmakov, has 8 goals. So you can get that. 3 young players and 2 picks. That's pretty good. So I'd say I'll alter my answer after seeing what they got in here.
That's fair. I mean, Lindholm, I think a little bit. I mean, I think he, career-wise, he's almost hit 30 goals a couple of times. So he does have the potential. I think a lot more. But yeah,
name recognition, right?
Yeah, exactly, and that's what they probably paid for.
All right, for the Monahan is just the injury issues, because he's hit 30 goals multiple times and even a couple of times in the high 20s. So from a goal scoring perspective, he's got Lindholm. I just think the giant question mark for Monahan is his health. For maybe will be more addressed by whoever decides to sign him on July 1st than somebody who's just trying to grab him for 20 games in a stretch run here.
Yeah, for sure. All right, and we'll move on to the final question. Question number 5, brought to you by Vivaldi Restaurant, best bring your own wine restaurant in all of Montreal, located in the West Island, 13071 Boulevard going west. Follow them at Resto Vivaldi on Instagram. They're awesome. Tell Steve and Dave the starters sent you. The Oilers, they've gone streaking 16 games in a row that they have won. At the beginning of this season, we were kind of, I don't want to say laughing at them, but we were kind of saying they had to win at a 700 or something clip to even think about the playoffs, where they're winning at a 1,000 clip for the past month. So, mission accomplished for them. So I just want to know 2 things. Basically, do you guys think that they'll break the record set by the 92-93 Penguins, which is 17? They're a game away. And more importantly, do you think that they're back to being cup contenders?
Well, I think that I don't even know who they're playing, but I'll just bet on the team that's won 16 in a row to win 17 in a row. Not going to go against that trend. When it goes back to being cup contenders, I can't see why not. Like if they don't have to be great in nets, their goaltending needs to give them a chance. And maybe that goaltending has settled in. It's incredible. When we did the podcast, 3 months ago, or not 3 months ago, but maybe 6 weeks ago, we'd be like, can they get a save? And they're not even giving up 2 goals a game. But how can you go from doing a podcast 5 weeks ago saying that they're desperate for a goalie, and then fast forward 5 weeks, they don't need a goalie? Like, is this going to rear its ugly head again, that their goaltending issues? I don't know. Depending on how that game is called in the playoffs, if you put these guys on the power play, they're going to kill you. So that gives them that advantage. But it's not even like, it's not even McDavid. McDavid's going off. McDavid's being McDavid, but he's not really being 140-point McDavid. It's not 120-point Draisaitl. It's like Hyman's having a great year. Ryan Nugent-Hopkins again. Evander Kane. Guys are jumping in from the defense corps as well. So this is a nice collective team effort. And nobody scares me in the West. Like, I like Colorado. Won a cup a few years ago. I'm not going to say I'm cheering for Vancouver, but that's a nice hockey team. But Vancouver hasn't done enough in the last 5 years to say, oh, my goodness gracious, I just don't want a first or a second round matchup against Vancouver. I'm sure teams will line up and take their chances with Vancouver. Vegas, unless they get healthy, they're not the same club as they were last year. So right now, today, the West isn't as scary. Now, check in with me at Game 83. Things might change, but I think the Oilers, pound for pound, they have some issues, but what they do well and what they do well at a high level, I don't think anybody can touch them. So I think, they are contenders.
Wow. They're playing in Vegas, and then they're going to face the Ducks in Anaheim after that. So those are the next 2 games.
In Vegas?
In Vegas. And in Anaheim as well.
Yeah.
They're on the West.
Boys, 2 stats blew my mind. Okay, so the first one is, how is it even possible that a Edmonton Oilers team with Gretzky and Messier and Curry and Anderson and Coffey, and we can go on and on and on, never won more than 12 games in a row? I have no idea how that's even possible, in the 80s, no less. So I'm really confused by that, but they have obliterated that record. And then The second stat that absolutely blew my mind, which I don't know if you guys are aware of, but I wasn't aware of till somebody told me about it, and that's the number one defensive team in hockey with the least goals allowed right now is the Edmonton Oilers. And that is a crazy stat. So Chuck Knobloch, not only played a mean second base there for the Yankees, he's also got these guys going. And right now, Simon, I'm going to tell you, he's got two superstars who can score at will, playing some defensive hockey, and that's scary. When Connor McDavid is making plays on the back end and he's buying into whatever Chuck Knobloch is selling, this team is a juggernaut. And I get the feeling they figured it out. And unless something happens where the goaltender just seems to be so porous and so terrible that they get knocked out of the playoffs, the Edmonton Oilers are right now my pick for the Stanley Cup. And I said that in the beginning of the season, and now I feel vindicated. I feel Chuck Knobloch has come in and saved me. And I still say Toronto's going to be there with them. As crazy as that sounds, I'm going to take that to the bank. But the Edmonton Oilers, I don't think enough can be said about their run and the type of hockey they're playing, because they're not winning 6-5 hockey games anymore.
No,
that's not their game, Simon, anymore. Their game is, they'll score goals and they'll murder you on the power play, like you said. You get a penalty against this team, you're in trouble. You're in trouble, Simon. There's no way, because their best 5 guys are better than any other team's 5 guys that they can put on. And that's the reality of it. Offensively, no one else can match up with this team. So if they start playing defense, watch out. And you said it, the West is winnable. There's no big juggernaut teams. I like Colorado. I think Colorado is the cream. But what has Vancouver proven? What has Dallas proven? What has Winnipeg proven? Is Vegas able to come back after winning a cup and do it again? I don't know. But the Edmonton Oilers, wow.
And to your credit, George, I mean, you didn't, when we asked you just a few weeks ago when they were doing terribly.
That's right.
You stuck with your pick to go to the Stanley Cup final.
I also picked the 49ers, by the way. I'm just going to mention that as well. So
yes, George picked the odds-on favorite to win.
Thank you. Yes, I did. But hey, give me credit. Toronto's not an odds-on favorite, nor were the Oilers. So we'll see if that comes.
Well, I know that I think Oilers at the beginning of the year, but after that ridiculous slide, no, it's pretty incredible. And a lot of their best defense is offense too, right? Now they're just controlling the play. They've got the puck on their sticks. But look, when you get two of the 5 best players in the league to buy into whatever, it's impressive, man. It's impressive. You rewind a month ago where this team was and the hiring, and people hated the hiring, and now on the verge of winning 17 games in a row. Crazy.
All right, boys. Thank you very much. Thank you all for listening. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and subscribe on YouTube at TheStarter690. Don't hesitate to comment, like, and share it with all of your friends. Thank you, boys.
Have a good week, boys.
Bye, boys.
Next week.
See you next week.